Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is OctoMan, and today I'm going to start to rewind literally my rather old game project called Age of Boxes. And since that is going to be, let's say, uh, not really a revival of my old game, it's more like it's doing the same things. I'm gonna rebuild things from that, from the old position or from the old game, but I want to maybe introduce on the later stage some specific or more specific game scenarios, let's say, where I can use something like a Gachapon or booster pack drawing scenario. What does it mean is I want to probably make it so that my units are going to be upgradable, and probably also starting with, let's say, just 2 units in total, like when you start the game. And then you need to unlock over time by playing the game. You need to get maybe some coins, and from them coins, you can purchase booster packs and stuff like that to open more boosters, to get more units, get more maybe rare units, and then, build up from there. So this is what I'm actually planning to do. If it comes to that point, I just don't know. I just want to create or recreate the first basics at all. For that part, I want to recreate the camera movement a bit, so I can literally use my mouse to drag around the units. I want to upgrade code to newer standards, I would say. I want to create serialized objects which are going to do all this stuff for me. Same for saving the game and so on and so forth. So probably this is the most interesting part later on as well. How I would handle this, for example, if people like you and me can play against each other with the units they have drawn from them booster packs and stuff like this. So there's going to be a bunch of things to do. I'm going to start from scratch literally over here. I'm starting from scratch with code. I try to invent or invest like an hour per day to get things up and running. What is Age of Boxes? The initial idea was it is like Age of War. Age of War is a rather old Flash game where you just send units from or do through different ages of time. For example, you start in the Stone Age. That's what's going to happen in Age of Boxes as well. You start in Stone Age, and the opponent, like the computer or whoever, all people are always starting in the Stone Age, and then you can unlock via, for example, EXP or via whatever points. You're gonna unlock the next age, and then you can build the basic units from there and try to be faster and better and stuff like that. As your opponent literally. And you need to define and decide and to find out and figure out how you want to do this. And of course, maybe there's going to be like 2 or 3 computer modes where some are going to be like rather extreme, like for example, rather hard to others. Maybe they are faster. Maybe the computer can cheat a bit here and there. We don't know. I don't know. But that's what I want to start with. So what I need is, at first, I need my first unit. I want to make my unit okay. I want my camera to be okay. And this is what I want to figure out at the very first, as well as maybe already implement the, hitting mechanic. If there's another opponent, like they're feeling each other, then they can attack each other. So they need to have an automatic movement to the opponent's side, depending on which direction they are looking. And so this is basically what we are going to start with, or what I'm going to start with. So I need a basic plane where I can put my units on. I can make this as beautiful as I want, or even not. And this is what I'm going to start with. So just a basic simple cube. I'm going to name this ground, nothing fancy. And I'm using Unity 2021 because that is a version which also later on is able to play and produce WebGL. The 2K19 had issues, and I believe 2K20, I'm not quite sure, maybe has no issues, but I wanted to make sure that I'm using a version in which I don't have any issues with the WebGL build later on. Okay, so now where do I look from is where the camera is, at least for the moment. So the camera is somewhere here. I'm gonna pretty quickly load my own building design, so I make sure that everything is as I used to see that. There we go. So this is my ground over here. I go out of lighting, I don't need it. And this is the z-axis. So everything is going to be relative to not the world space at all. It's literally unit space. I want to make it so that first off, I want to resize that here to be my actual ground, my play field. And literally, or in general, it doesn't really matter how big that is at the moment. Since we're gonna have like a starting spawn point or something here and another spawn point over there for the units of each of them, you know, enemies. So my units in general are 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. I'm gonna go and bring one in. And I put this anywhere. It's just my first character over here. By the way, if you like to and you want to support this this project here, feel free to do so. Maybe I'm gonna put a OpenSea link over there in which you are allowed to purchase them as NFTs if you want to. Like currently just the first one is available. So, but you can go to OpenSea and search for HFOF boxes and you're gonna find this one unit to be, you know, you can make an offer and then we are good to go. What else? Yeah, I need to make sure that I create a folder first where I want to put all my, you know, all my units in. So I'm going to name it maybe units. The thing with these units are they have different ages. And so I might go and create a subfolder for all the different ages. So I'm going to do, let's say, Stone Age here. Like so. And I drag my unit inside the units folder. And from units entire site Stone Age. I need to make sure that this one works. Why don't we see anything? It depends always on the FBX version I'm using. But all the animations and all the materials are prepared in here. So I have an idle attack, an attack, and a walk. They are all prepared. I just need to connect them in the animator later on. So this is what I, by the way, not share because it's going to be, you know, too confusing probably for people which have no idea about 3D and stuff. So I need this material to be exported or extracted literally because as we can see, the ambient materials are not really, you know, they are not really shown. If I drag this guy here inside the scene, you're going to see nothing. And this is because of that. There's one more thing I might want to go for is I cannot really use this the unit itself as being my movable unit, I guess. I mean, it is an empty game object, but it's not like on the ground over here. And also the pivot point. Oh, it looks in the correct direction, which is actually not bad at all. So maybe I can use that. I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna have to do something with the game objects later on. Okay, so I don't see anything, so I need to extract the materials from this guy, and instead of using the ambient materials, we're gonna need to make it the use external materials legacy, and then I apply the changes, and then the material and the texture is going to be completely, you know, it's put in this materials folder. Awesome. So basically in this material, we're going to find the basic unit over here. This one got called usually the basic unit. These maps are not as huge. Here's the map of it. Nothing fancy, just where all the texture stuff is on. So they don't have any normal maps and stuff like that. It's just not necessary for this product or project. So what I can now do is, since he is on 0, but lifted to 0.5 here already, as you can see from the position, I'm not quite sure if I can go to pivot. Oh, this is the pivot point. Okay, so this is maybe an issue, so I can fix that easily. I'm gonna show you in a second why. So this ground over here is sitting at 0, 0, so I could say I'm gonna make it like minus 0.5. So in the y-axis, so my guy is going to stand directly on this. There's one flaw again, is the pivot point here in the center is just not correct. What I would do is I would create a new empty. I'm gonna see where the actual z-axis is going to be. We're gonna check that in a second, and I want to make sure that this one is going to be at 0, 0, 0 once I create it. So this one is now the what is it? Stone Age Millie. Stone Age. Gonna make it maybe like that. So the Stone Age Millie. Why do we need to do this anyways is I need to create prefabs, so it doesn't matter if I do it like this way or that way. So this one is going to take the actual necessary informations about collision and feeling and rigid body and blah, 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 whatever we use, as well as it's just driving the unit forward like constantly in one direction. So it's easier for me. But meanwhile, he's driving in one direction, I'm gonna play the move animation on that guy. So it is not affecting the main object over here. So nothing fancy with that. So I'm gonna check that if I'm at a local space at the pivot point of my newly created empty game object, I wanna see where it is. And I wanna literally make sure it's on 0, 0, 0. So this guy here sits also at 0, 0, 0, but it's lifted by 0.5. So what I can now do is I can take now this guy. I'm not quite sure why there are those so weird scaling things. I just take him and make him part of this one. So if I move the empty, I'm gonna move, of course, everything which is child object. Good. Now I can rotate it by 180, like so. And bring this, let's say, into any of these directions. Currently, it doesn't really matter. So object preview not disposed properly, doesn't matter. I ignore all them. There are a bunch of weird messages over here. Do as row Unity 2021, and sometimes I don't know what these things coming for or from. Good. I need a prefab for that. So we got the actual units over here, and we got literally these are just these 3D models. So basically, maybe I'm gonna name this one to be not units but 3D models, because that's what they are about. And then I need another folder, which I'm gonna create inside the assets folder. It's going to be my prefabs folder. And in my prefabs folder, of course, I'm gonna put the units. So clean and constant renaming of the actual things, like of the actual folders and stuff, and sorting out everything necessary is absolutely crucial, I believe. So we want to make it so that everything is goodly visible and understandable. So this is going to be now the Stone Age. This is where all my Stone Age melee units are going to land in, or actually any even range ones. So this is Stone Age melee. I'm gonna take this and bring this over here. So now I can instantiate the Stone Age at any time I want. So what now is happening is I need to know, or actually I need to use this guy and prepare him so that if there would be an enemy, let me duplicate this guy and put them like the other way around, like, you know, this way. They need to understand who they are facing, what the guys who are doing anything, if they are doing damage to them. Like, for example, one of the units got, or each of them units get some HP and stuff like that. And if this guy hits this guy by performing an attack, we want to know that this guy actually noticed that this guy has done an attack at this point. And so we need to send over data, but we need to know, hey, how do they see them? How do they see each other? And there are a bunch of things we can do. We can make something like a collision object, which sticks out from, let's say, the nose in the front and tries to see if there's somebody else who he is touching, like another enemy type or another unit type, but maybe not from the same, let's say, from the same tribe. That's what I would say. And here, like, if you are a friendly unit, the other units might not be friendly, but might be enemies, you know, or seen as enemies. So if them tag is not the same as them tag, then of course we know the difference over here. And we can see, okay, all the tribes are literally fighting against each other. So how do we do this, or how do I start? Well, let me just ignore this guy here. Let me just prepare one. Since that is a prefab, I can easily go and override existing units or just get rid of any of them later on. Okay, so first off, I need a collider, a box collider. So I'm gonna put this box collider around my current object. As you can see, it's like here in the bottom. Hard to see. You can see this is going to be this one. I want to put this like that it is going to be passing over or being completely, you know, around this area, like around the character over there. Some box colliders later on might be bigger, others might be smaller. So I'm gonna reposition this. So I just lift it up here a bit and bring this here. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just for testing purposes. If you need this mode to be like an orthographic view, you can just select here or in the center of the gizmo, and then you should be good to go. So this is my point of view. This is my something I want to aim for. So everything should be like inside over here. When I now get hit or touched, like this guy gets hit, he has to notice that, and vice versa, the other guy needs to notice that as well. And so we need to fiddle out a, let's say, okay-ish distance between them two objects. For example, like so, that when this guy would now perform a attack, that this guy actually knows that or gets notified by this. And depending on how far we make them together, basically it doesn't really matter, but we need to stop a point. So we move until we feel something. Otherwise, when we don't feel anything, we just push forward in the forward direction. And so we need to define, or I need to define a script which is doing exactly this thing. Driving forward until he touches something. Once he touches something, I'm gonna go and make an animation like a play attack. And when I play attack, I want to notify the other one. So I need a damage thingy wingy, let's say, like a damage something. What we can do is also we can later on for unit settings or setups, we can use scriptable objects to, put in some sliders and stuff like that, play around with numbers and see how good or how bad the actual units are going to be performing, as well as whenever I'm changing them as scriptable objects, everybody else is noticing that as well. So I don't need to do things twice. I don't need any fancy, big, huge, or hard to understand or hard to see classes and so on. But this is something I'm going to create a unit for. So each unit is going to get the same things. Every unit is going to have its own, its own thing. And then I want to make a unit pool, which is also a scriptable object where all the units are going to be inside. So whenever later on the booster packs are coming in play, I just have one big chunk of everything connected to one thing. And if I say, hey, pick one, like when we get a coin or something, and we pay a coin, that we are opening this booster pack and we have the chance of XYZ to pull one of the basic units or any other kind of units. And also every time you pull, you need or you upgrade one of your units, because they may be automatically upgrading themselves through the packs. We're gonna have to double, for example, for the next iteration of upgrades for this unit, I need to have a double the amount of cards or double the amount of things we need here actually to upgrade this actual creature, whatever it is. Okay, so I now need some scripts, since without scripts nothing is going to work over there. So I create a new folder with scripts. And this script I'm going to create first is the one which is driving all units the same way. So I later on, just if I create a new or import new units, they just get the same settings, the same setup, basically the same base object, but they just, change the actual, what does change? Well, just the scriptable object, it has to be changed later on because it has maybe different settings inside and so on and so forth, based on, HP and attack and defense and stuff. Okay, so in scripts, that's what we're going to start with first. It's going to be, I just need a basic unit script. This basic unit script is going to be everywhere. Like on each of them. It doesn't matter if it is an enemy or if it is a normal one. And this basic unit script basically has to do two things: driving forward and doing attacks. And of course I need to fiddle out later on handling for the animations. So in the first place, or in one of the other places later on, we're going to go for HP, so I can see who has which amount of HP and so on and so forth, so I can see maybe who is going to die one or the other day and so on. So for the moment, I don't need any of those literally, but once I do, maybe I'm gonna need the update loop in a moment, since we need to do some testing. First off, what does a unit contains of, or what does it need? Well, I want to have a push forward in the Z direction, so I can do this by certain parameters. Each of the units is going to get the same speed, so nobody is really faster or slower than the other, except I maybe want to introduce something else later on. Also, I don't have any ground units or something, so basically this is what everyone has, is some kind of the same speed. And I don't know where to start, I just put a 10. So this is my movement speed into one direction, which is the forward axis of the actual game object. Good. If I want to make my life easier, and you're gonna maybe learn this as well, you just, make some comments above everything you want. You can also use tooltips, move speed. If you have any other speed later on, like animation speed and so on, then you might want to comment things out accordingly, or just name them as they go, as they have to be. So maybe we need the update loop, so I'm gonna put that in. So on update, we want to say transform dot position is equal to, and now we can think about how we want to do this, how we have full control or the most control, or I just do a translation forward in one direction until a certain point. And I need to encapsulate this to see if there's somebody in front of me, and I'm gonna go over that in a moment. So if nobody is in front of me, I want to do this. And this nobody in front of me is literally just a bool check, which constantly runs like every now and then. Maybe I'm gonna put all this content later on, not in the update, but in the in a kind of a coroutine, which might be a bit more efficient over there later on, because I can do all this time-wise actions sooner or later from one to the other. So what we can do is probably is transform or translate. So translate in one direction, and we're gonna have the razor translation, which is going to be the relative space, the relative transform dot forward axis, like so. And I believe we can have to multiply that by a speed variable and a time dot delta time value. I'm not quite sure if that is correct. It's been quite some time now. I just used that. Maybe we don't need this one here. And we just say transform translate forward times speed times time dot delta time. Instead of adding to the current position or doing a position over certain, let's say, axes, we might be able to do that. So let's see what this creature is now doing and how quick he is. If he does anything, and he is not able to do anything, of course, because we need to add the script, right? So we're gonna put basic unit and see if that works, just for that guy. So what's now happening is this guy is going over X. So the actual transform forward axis is not really, it is doing the not its local transform, it's using the global transform, and it's not literally doing this in the correct direction. So maybe that transform translate does not work if it is using world space axis, or I need to use some kind of an overload and say, is there a local or something? What is the space? What is the space? Space relative to space 2. What does that mean? Let me take a look into the scripting API. Maybe I can say I don't want to use the world space. I want to use the local space, but I'm not quite sure. Is it a false and true setting? So what you should do is always go and look into the Unity API for transform.translate. That's what I just type in the browser and see what's popping up. And you always should take a look into. So we got this relative to, and I'm gonna see here, we got a space.self. So there's an enum which we can use. And here there's also a space.world. So we can use space world or space local or something, or space self. So let's try space self. There we go. Gonna save that and see now if that now translates in the correct direction. So beforehand, probably it was using the world space axis, and now we want to go and see if that is going to move forward in this direction. Gonna wait a sec more. And it still does the wrong thing. So relative to world space doesn't make sense because, well, the z-axis is going to go the other way around. So, but that's what I want to try first. See if the world space is going to be. If that doesn't work, I'm gonna use another forward movement. No issues with that. There we go. So I don't know why he thinks that this one is going to be the space world. I believe there's something fishy with that, because usually the world space axis is the one from this gizmo and not from the local one here. So maybe it's meant to be different. Let's see if I can find it again. If relative to left out of set self, the movement is applied relative to the transform's local axis. Yeah, that's what I thought, but that's wrong. And if it is relative to world space, the movement applied relative to the world coordinate system, which is also wrong, as we have just noticed. So something is fishy with that, or maybe I don't get it correct, because the world space, again, has another coordinate system than my local axis is. So, okay, good to know. Good to know. Speed of 10 is a bit too huge, so this is a rather slow game in general. Maybe it's a speed of 2. Maybe that speed does not fit anything else later on, but that's, let's say, a good starting point to just drive something into one direction. So let's see. That's still a huge parameter, still quite fast. But we'll see if how that cooperates with the actual animations. So on my actual object over here, somewhere there should be an animator or an animation pool thing. So let me take a look into the animations themselves. They are here. And this should be the basic one. Pretty good. So it just throws up its... Here's the punch or the kick, and here's the walk. So it's just like a nippity-bippity-boo, nothing fancy. We need them to be on our object. So these animations over here, they need to be anyhow connected. The walk has a loop time. The idle has also a loop time. The attack does not. If that changed later on, I'm gonna be able to, reorganize that things. Now I need to fiddle out where I'm gonna be able to put the mechanism content. Usually there's something, I believe, there was something to create the animator component for myself, like for the complete thing automatically. I just apply because of the settings. I believe the animator component should be here. So I go for window, animation, animator. I want to see what's going on here. And as we can see, none of these are just some pivot points, to help out things. And this is the left hand, the right hand, and so on. What I don't have is the animator component sitting on any of them objects. So I'm gonna put this in here and say, gonna put the animator, and now I need an avatar, or I believe a controller at least. So I need to create a new runtime controller. How do I create a new one? Not here. Okay, so I create a new animator controller. There we go. Gonna name this one basic, or actually it's a Stone Age. Well, it's a basic unit, kind of. Everybody can later on listen to the animator component and talk to it and stuff like that. Now I'm gonna make this one part of this. So I believe there is a way. I believe there's a way anyhow to click somewhere, at least there was in the past, like to auto-generate the actual avatar. It's a generic animation type, definitely. But usually there should be something like where all the animations are already bind and connected to something. So we just need to order or organize them. But I don't see anything here. Pretty strange. Okay, so with that, this one here just contains the coding. This one here is going to contain the animator component with its basic parameters. So if I select basic unit, I can now take all the animations I got here. I got the attack, I got idle, and I got walk. And I make the idle first the default layer because that's what's going to happen at the very first beginning. And now I want to see if that idle is starting to play automatically or is playing meanwhile he's moving forward. So he should throw up his there we go. I don't know what that is. Again, I just ignore it. Good. So we got an animation running now, which is going to sit like here. Here's the basic animator component. So what's now happening is, or what I need now is, before this guy walks, or when it doesn't walk, then I want to play the idle or the attack. And if he walks, usually, and I believe I don't need an idle. Well, I do need an idle whenever there are a bunch of others staying in front of this guy, that this guy or the ones behind him are not able to do anything, so they idle. So I need some kind of a state machine maybe per each unit, so we can differentiate between different scenarios, and based on the current situation, I'm gonna play an idle or an attack, or I do a walk. So, and for that state machine, I guess I'm gonna create a new enum here. Name it states. And in here, I'm gonna put all the states. I have an idle state, I have a walk state, and I have an attack state. Nothing fancy. All the other units are going to have the same, but they have different, let's say, mechanics to perform these. So some might do a shoot, and some others don't. So we need to fiddle out, or I need to fiddle out how I want to do this. But basically, it's every unit is going to be a range attack or a range unit, and another one is going to be a melee attack. So I can differentiate between that on the unit type later on. So these unit types, once again, all of the settings are going to be done in the scriptable objects later on. So in here, I just build the absolute basic mechanics, and the rest is going to be driven by like which projectile to shoot, if it is a range unit and stuff like that. I just do this in a scriptable object, so nothing fancy to do over here. Here, I just need to call the information to do the content for me. Now, what we can do is we can say if the state is going to be a walking state, then we're going to do the push performance forward. So we can literally use the actual case over here, or the actual state machine over here directly inside the update loop. But once again, we can also put this into a unlimited running coroutine or something like that. So there are a bunch of things to be good to go over here. So currently, I'm not quite sure if I want to do all of that stuff in the update loop. I believe I'm gonna make it an extra. Gonna name this maybe state machine, or it's just giving me the possibility to set a certain state and do whatever I need to do so. So I need to pass in which state I want to set, but in this case I cannot do this because I don't have any kind of an accessor of here. So I create a new states state. I don't need to see that, and I don't need to do anything with that, I guess. So this is going to be a state. I'm gonna name the state. And so this is the state I want to set this state to. And then here I can now say if state. So I can do a comparison. If state is equal to states dot, now I can say walk. If that is the case, we want to push and do the actual transformation forward in world space. I need to put an extra equal sign, since that is a comparison operator over there. So we compare two things. So we have like, is it an AND operator or an OR operator or an equal sign operator? There are a bunch of other operators as well. So for the state machine over here, I want to just switch the incoming state literally and probably do some extra performance over there. For example, if I am walking, maybe it's not as I wanted. I don't know. I want to see if there's something in front of me. So void. I want to see who is in front of me and where is he coming from or something like that. So we might need to implement something like a faction or a tribe or anything. I don't know, or maybe just maybe a race, or could also be a possibility for something else. I don't know, it could be just a tag. If this tag is not the same as this tag, something like this. Whatever we are hitting, if that has not the same tag as we do, then we say, oh no, that's an impossible thing to do. Okay, so I'm gonna create some kind of a feeler. And this feeler should be a raycast, which I shoot in a certain length over to the play or through the play field and see who I hit. And whatever I hit is something I can damage, because except it has the same tag. So maybe I'm gonna go and return a bool instead of a void and say, let's say hit check or something. We're gonna do a hit check or an enemy check or something. So basically, it's an enemy check. So we want to test if there is something in front of our current position, let's say. So how do we do this? We first off need to define a ray and a hit, like a raycast hit. So we are shooting a raycast and storing whatever we find whenever we hit it with in the hit parameter, and then we can do comparison. So if we find something who has the same class, like a basic unit class, maybe I don't really name it basic unit, it's just a unit. I'm gonna rename them both here pretty quick. So it's a unit. So if I hit a unit, I need to check who is the other unit from. Is it our own unit? Because there are some units in front of us as well. They are stacking next to each other. So if one unit is in front of us and does have the same trigger or the same tag, then we know exactly that this one is a friendly or an enemy unit, something like that. So probably we need to do 2 checks for range units at least, because range units are going to have like 3 times the length of ray check, something like that. So if I put in something like a float ray length over here, I can use that and can say, okay, I don't want to check more than like let's say 1.5f or something. I might go and reduce the information, stuff like that. So if that returns true, we want to tell, of course, the state machine, hey, you need to stop. Instead, you need to do an attack or an idle, depending on what we find. And so what we do with that state machine later on, we just create a switch, pass over a state, and based on the state, we just do whatever is inside the state machine, except the one for this one. So, and of course, maybe for walking, we are able to do something else here as well, like playing another animation literally. So this is basically for the animation state machine. So each time something happens, we want to make sure that I get an information about the current state, so whatever is going to be inside. So I need to constantly make a hit check over here. I need to do this in update, or I need to do this in, in a state machine, in a coroutine as an example. Okay, so if I find something, I'm gonna make a physics raycast here, but it doesn't let me create it. What's happening? Oh, I have to save first, pretty quick, and let the compiler run over it. Might take a second because it didn't recognize my renaming. There we go. So it still doesn't get it. That's funny. Let's try again. Nope, physics is not opening or not reacting. I just close it for a second and reopen it. Something is fishy when you rename things. Unit.hitcheck doesn't, not all code passes return something. Yeah, that's what I know. Should be red underlined if everything works again. But it takes like half a minute or so before it recognizes anything. There we go. Now that works again. Okay, so I need to put a physics check. I just don't know why it doesn't. Okay, that's pretty strange. If physics dot raycast, we can do shoot a raycast. And maybe I'm gonna make this. I prepared this ray already to equal a new ray, and then I can pass in content. For example, what is the origin and what is the direction to shoot into? So we can always see that if our coding passes are working here, we can say we can make a vector3 be an origin and a direction. So the origin is going to be a new vector3. I'm gonna lift it up. It's going to be my current transform.position plus, let's say, half a meter or so. So we can say new vector3, then we have x, y, z. So basically, it's going to be transform.position.x. Then we got a transform.position.y, and of course transform.position.z or z. But I want this one here to be lifted by half. So I can say plus 0.5f. So just in case. So this is for the origin, and now I need the direction, and the direction is going to be transform.forward. So I want to shoot this ray forward from my current position, from wherever this guy is going to be at the moment. So now we can shoot the ray. We can say out hit. So we want to see if we hit something. And then we need to define the ray length. So we just want to have it about 1 meter. And if we also want to, we don't have to, we can also use layer-based checks if that is necessary. Okay, so we shoot from our current position, lift it up by half a meter, and shoot the ray forward into the forward direction. Well, that's what I supposed to happen over here by using transform.forward over here as being the direction to be shooting. We can also take a look if that is really happening over there. So the next one is I want to see if what I do hit, or if I do hit something, then I want to switch the state for movement, and I want to switch the state for probably for attacks and so on and so forth. So in the state machine here, I would just say switch. And what do I want to switch is I want to switch state. And basically the issue is probably a naming issue here. So I'm gonna make it so. And here I just set state to be the incoming state, like this, just in case. And then I want to switch state, so this state here. Usually you can also, yeah, that's usually you could also switch this one here, but it doesn't update this one here, the one we are actually looking for. Now we are able or allowed to create some cases. So we have a case, and in this case it's states.idle, for example. Then we need to break out of it, and we need to do the other cases as well. So we can actually go for and look for the corresponding animations. We got an attack, and we got a walk. So a switch only understands one input. Usually it doesn't know multiple inputs because we can only be in one scenario. Switches in general don't have like a indicator range. For example, you cannot say something like if bigger than 1 but smaller than 3. This is impossible. You can just say if 1, if 2, if 3, or if idle, walk, attack, and so on and so forth. So these do have indicators and numbers, as you can see as well. This one has an ID of 2 over here, so we could also request for ID 2. So in here we can just talk to the animator component, but we don't know where this animator component is. And currently for me itself, it is in the child object of the current object. So I'm gonna make a animator connection. I just name it anim. And in start, you should go and take a look for all the children's. So void start and see if you find an animator component. So in start, we say anim is equal to get component in children. So basically the first single one of type animator. No, not animation. Animator. Open close parentheses, close the line with semicolon. So now we know where it is, and now we can talk to it and update it accordingly. And so when we now say we are in idle, or we are setting our enemy or our something into idle, and we don't do anything else but that, we can say anim dot, and now we can say set, let's say a bool or float or anything. I should say a bool or a trigger maybe. I set a bool. And now I need to define what it is. And in my case, maybe it's going to be the idle is going to be the bool or the actual string for that, or string name. Later on, I just need to have all of them being the same thing. And then I just say true. At the same time, when we set idle to be true, we need to make sure that probably other ones are going to be not true. So for example, we got some for the walk, but we need to deactivate it. So we need to say walk is equal to false. And of course, attack is going to be equal to false if we have an attack value over there later on, depending on how we structure the actual animator component. So for the attack, of course, we're going to need to do the same thing, but the opposite. And the attack probably is going to be like a one shot. This one is maybe not going to be a bool, but a trigger. So, and in here I just set the attack trigger, because this is what we're gonna have to constantly check. Is there a possibility to do an attack from either state? It doesn't matter if we are in an idle state or even in a walk state. So, and idle, of course, is going to be false at this point. Well, probably, yeah, but I believe so, yes. So, but once again, this is something I'm gonna be able to take a look into in a moment or a bit later. So in here, we don't need to touch this. We don't need to touch the actual attack, because it's only a trigger animation. So we don't need this inside the walk state. And in here, when we are walking, we are not idling, but we are walking. So I just switch the actual animator components just in case. I'm gonna hit save so I don't lose anything. So again, this one here is probably obsolete. These two need to be false as well. So I'm not quite sure how I structure that. I believe it's just a normal triangle setting, or just any state to any state setting. So if that is true, then the other one is not, and so on. I don't know yet. So and now we need to see, we need to compare what we do hit. So literally, we just want to do damage to whatever we hit. So we need to grab, let's say, a unit, and later on buildings are also units. So we need the buildings to inherit a unit as well later on. So we grab what we get first. We see who we hit, and we want to say, okay, since I got this one hit, I want to check if a unit is hit actually. So I'm gonna catch the unit first I find. So I want to see hit.collider.getComponent. of type unit. So this is basically what we can do here. But what we can also do is before we actually grab that, we can see, maybe we can do a comparison. I don't know if I can, my own tag, can I compare my own tag to this tag? I believe I could. If this dot game object dot, well, I need the tag. If my tag is equal to, and now I probably can also say if the hit uses the same tag. Let's try if that works. I have no idea. So if hit dot collider dot compare tag. Now I need to fiddle out who I want to compare this tag to. I want to compare this tag with my own game object dot tag. I don't know if that works. Game object dot tag. Oh, with a small t. So I can now, I should be able to compare these two. And I want to see if they are not the same. So if not compare tags, that just returns a boolean here, as you can see. I have to pause. I'm back in a moment.